Hey everybody, welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. As always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making tonight's show a part of your evening. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. Coming up here on the show, obviously, injury problems have really hampered this Niners ball club for years. And since Kyle Shanahan became head coach in 2017, the Niners have been one of the most injured teams in all of football. And so I want to pass along some reporting that I have to share with all of you that I got from a source during a really interesting conversation last night. So let's dive right in. So I spoke with somebody last night who has worked as an athletic trainer for multiple NFL teams and multiple high-level college football programs. And we were talking about the NFL as a whole, what I do as a job, as a content creator, as a broadcaster covering the Niners. And naturally, because this person is an athletic trainer who has a background working for NFL teams, I brought up the very concerning Niners injury history, which has been well documented and obviously a big topic of conversation here on this show. And this person said to me that it's pretty well known in NFL circles among strength and conditioning people, physical therapists, that what the Niners do as an organization is different than what a lot of other teams do across the NFL, even with some college football programs out there. And the 49ers have their own philosophies when it comes to strength and conditioning, weightlifting and weight training, in addition to physical therapy. And this individual knows of head athletic trainer for the 49ers, Dustin Little. And this individual said that Little has his own style of things that he teaches and incorporates with the Niners' weightlifting techniques, movement techniques, and their overall training strategy. We talked about the Niners stretching techniques, and I don't know if that's as big of an issue as what some people have made it out to be, but some of these other things have led a lot of people in NFL circles who work in health and wellness to believe that what the Niners do as an organization could be a factor for why the Niners have suffered from all of these injuries. And people across the NFL are aware of how the Niners do things because it's their way. And they think that this could be a reason why the Niners have had these vast injury problems that at this point has become historic. And it's not to say what Dustin Little does and incorporates is wrong or bad. It's just different than what other teams do. And so I found this to be really interesting. And when it comes to health and wellness, when it comes to weight training, when it comes to styles of workouts, right, it can get to be a pretty nerdy, in-depth conversation. And so I want to explain the conversation that I had with this athletic trainer as best as I can, because it is kind of hard to explain, because strength and conditioning, weight training, it's nuanced, it's complex, and everybody in this space has their own beliefs and methods. That's why there are different types of gyms. That's why there are different types of workouts. That's why these coaches and these trainers and these physical therapists all teach and preach things that some people like and incorporate and others don't. And it can come down to your own individual philosophy, what you've been taught, where you've gone to school, a corporation, an organization, or a company that you've worked for, the studies that you have done. So when I say that you can really go in the rabbit hole for all this stuff, you can go down a rabbit hole. That's why there are so many different books and YouTube videos on all these different fitness fads and training techniques. And so to summarize one point that I was told, when NFL players make it to the NFL, a lot of it is about maintaining their bodies, right? These athletes who come into the NFL, they're already in great shape. They're already strong. They got there for a reason. There's not a ton that you have to do to change their body. And obviously you want these players who you draft, who you sign, to get stronger, to build off of that foundation and to maintain. But what the Niners sometimes do is introduce things that are new and different to these individual players compared to what they've been taught, what they've done before with these college programs or other teams. And sometimes these players aren't used to these types of techniques or these types of workouts. And so when your body isn't used to something, it can take a little while to evolve and adapt. When your body isn't used to something, it can break down. Sometimes this can put your bodies into a position or through a technique they're not accustomed to. And that can lead to some injury problems. And so that's probably the best way that I can explain this conversation, because we were talking for a really long time and I'm very passionate about health and wellness. I work out every day. I'm training for a high rocks competition coming up on Saturday. I studied broadcast journalism in college. So when it comes to kinesiology, when it comes to the human body, obviously I'm not an expert in this stuff, but I take great interest in it. I read a lot, listen to a lot of podcasts, but I didn't go to school for this stuff. That's why I wanted to pass along some information from this source. And of course, it's always so funny when I report something. I have a pretty big platform, right? We reach 3 million people per month here on the 49ers Report. I'm not sure if there's another Niners channel that's doing as many views as we do. I have 40,000 followers on Instagram, almost 20,000 followers on X, reaching millions of people every single month on those platforms. And some people will respond and have responded to my tweet, which has gone off for, I don't know, last check, 300,000, 400,000 views. And people will say, source, trust me, bro. People like this do crack me up because, yeah, let me just waste my time and energy and just make shit up. When I report something, it's because I get valuable information from credible sources that I think is worth passing along. And I know I look young to some people. Maybe I look old to some people. A lot of you like to criticize me for how I look in my eyes. Can't really help it. I've always looked this way. But I have worked in media for more than 10 years. And I was thinking about this the other day. I graduated Temple University, one of the best broadcasting programs in the country, in May of 2015. Obviously, we're here in November of 2025. I can't believe I've been working in this industry for 10 years, but over time, I've worked in television, radio, podcasting, YouTube, news, sports, politics, pop culture. I've covered college football. I've covered the NFL. Over time, you naturally get connections. I'm a very inquisitive and curious person. I like to talk to people and get a lot of cool information and have a lot of neat conversations. I'm very blessed to be able to do that. And so I don't deem myself as a reporter, not even a journalist. I used to be a reporter on television. I used to be a big J journalist. I won awards for doing that on one of the most watched local news stations in the country. There was a reason I left all that. Now, I would say I'm a broadcaster, I'm an NFL content creator, and I'm an NFL host and I'm an analyst. But when I do have things to report, I'll report them. Like the Brock Purdy contract happenings, which I ended up being right on. Or the Brandon Ayuk contract, which I ended up being right on. Or the Eagles having interest in Cooper DeJean. They ended up drafting him. A few more stories out there I've been able to report on. And this comes from somebody who has worked for multiple NFL teams. And the fitness community is a community where a lot of people talk, a lot of people converse, a lot of people network. And when the Niners have had all these injury problems, it becomes a topic of conversation because there are health people out there who are trying to get these jobs. And there are health people out there who work as physical trainers, who work as strength and conditioning coaches, who are trying to get to the root cause for why the Niners have had all these injury problems. So, source, trust me, bro? No, I told you the source in the tweet. And another thing, too, with this, obviously some injuries are due to bad luck. I've seen some people respond to my reporting saying, get the F out of here. You think that training techniques would have kept Fred Warner healthy? Well, dipshit. Obviously, some injuries at the NFL level, a physical and violent game, come down to pure bad luck. When Fred Warner gets rolled up on and his ankle is facing east and his foot is facing east, that comes down to bad luck, right? When somebody suffers a broken leg like Cam Scadaboo and his foot is in the wrong direction, that's bad luck. When you talk about collision injuries, the Niners actually haven't suffered a lot of those types of injuries over time. Other injuries, though, are preventable and avoidable, like soft tissue injuries, hamstring pulls. How many have the Niners had just this year alone? A ton. Calf injuries. How many of those injuries have popped up for the Niners over time? A lot. Soft tissue injuries are preventable and avoidable with proper training and weightlifting techniques. And so the Niners have been top 10 in injury rate every single year since 2017 outside of 2023. In 2023, I think they had a lot of good luck. Outside of that, they've had some bad luck. But some of their training techniques at this point and anything can be questioned because we're talking about a near decade-long sample size where the Niners have been top 10 in injury rate every single season. Some of you might bring up the EMF theory that I passed along that John Feliciano and players have talked about. I talked about that with this source, and that is something that has been talked about inside the building, that the Niners practice facility is where it is, and it's next to an electrical substation. And obviously a lot of this research is new, but there are a lot of dangers behind EMF as far as EMF causing cancer, soft tissue injury, and a lack of recovery, which can also lead to injuries. One constant here for the Niners in recent time is the head of strength and conditioning. That's Dustin Little, who I talked about a little bit earlier. He's been with the Niners over the last 6 years. And some people have said they've changed the staff under Kyle Shanahan a lot. It's actually kind of a myth. They really haven't. Dustin Little has been one of the constants with this Niners organization. And in NFL circles, for people who are into strength and conditioning, physical therapy, health and wellness, they have said that his weight training, stretching techniques are a little bit different. Even how the Niners do PT is a little bit different. Obviously, with stretching, they do more dynamic stretching prior to practices instead of static stretching. That's different than what some teams do across the NFL. But at this point, you have to have conversations and try to get to the root cause. And I think anything can be questioned at this point, right? Since Shanahan became head coach, more than 2,000 games lost due to injury. I think it's actually getting close to 3,000 games lost due to injury. By far, number one in the NFL. Clearly what the Niners are doing from a strength and conditioning standpoint, weightlifting, physical training, doesn't work. And it's led to these injuries. And it's different than what other teams do. And there are some pluses to this. As I said, Dustin Little, it's not to say what he does is wrong or bad, because their training techniques does lead to them being a physical football team. The Niners do take pride in that. They don't have a lot of contact injuries, but they do have a ton of soft tissue injuries, which to a degree are avoidable. Another thing that people have said, well, these players, they train with other trainers outside of the facility during the offseason. No doubt about it. But during the season, they are with the Niners strength and conditioning staff. And during the season, the Niners have been top 10 in injury rate every year since 2017, except for one. So wanted to pass along that reporting. I thought it was fascinating. I mean, it was something that I was nerding out on, and I wanted to give you all that intel and give you what I was talking about and hearing. And we'll see what happens. Hopefully the Niners can become a more healthy football team and turn this injury-riddled history around. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. My name is Chase Sr. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report, and I'll catch you all soon.